Yeah, welcome Chinedu. Welcome. First of all, thank you so much for choosing to be on the Black Expat Podcast. You're officially our first guest, and I think that one of the things that intrigues me about you is how that you're willing to always be a crusader, or is it ambassador that they call it, for people who have dreams or have, for as long as I remember, you've always put your foot forward in on the things that I've done, and I think with other people too, and it's very funny how life, I know my husband met you back in Nigeria in school and all
Correct.
that. Like, it's amazing how the simplest relationships will lead to the simplest meetings will lead to the greatest relationships. But let me not get ahead of myself. Welcome. And to everyone watching this, welcome to the Black Expat Podcast. The Black Expat Podcast is a platform that is focused on shining the light on Nigerians who are doing amazing and generally just sharing the journey of Nigerians in diaspora. Now, of course, there are different stories to what happens to Nigerians. Some people think that when you go abroad, you start to pick dollars or pounds and euros on the floor. And some other people think that when you go abroad, it's only healthcare work that you do. It depends on who is telling you the story and the side you hear. Some people think that once you're abroad, things are, people, Black Lives Matter. And please, of course, it's I don't even want to get into the political discussion, but some people just think, oh, if I leave Nigeria, I'm going to suffer because, I'm Black and I'm going to have race issues and all that. And in the grand scheme of things, we shouldn't let people's experiences stop us from taking the steps we need to take. At the same time, don't, because somebody else did something and maybe got away with it, let it not be a reason why you decide to do something or make a decision for yourself. Again, let me not get ahead of myself, but the whole essence of the Black Expat Podcast is to shine the true story, the behind the scenes on the individuals who are out there, who are thriving, and talk about what their journey has been, so that you know that success is real, but there's also work behind it. So you don't land in UK or Europe and start to pick money on the ground or feel, if I can just leave Nigeria, I'm going to make it. Or if I can leave Africa, I'm going to make it. There's work involved and all that. And also to inspire people who feel that they can never, they might not be able to achieve great things in life. Some of us are just the most ordinary people coming from ordinary backgrounds, but we have determined that with God and with hard work, we're going to go far in life. And of course, having also key relationships. There's a whole lot to this, but yeah. So talking to experts, talking about their journeys, their challenges, the journey so far. Our mission is to celebrate the achievements, look at their stories and how everything has been for them up until now, so that you can get inspired and you can know that it's possible for you. Because like they say, when God is in the neighborhood, he will soon come knock on your door. So it's all about inspiration and holding each other up. Now, Chinedu, we're going to start off with an introduction, and they're going to have ask questions and have fun along the way. But feel free, like I said, to relax through the interview. It's not what's the word? It's not that white collar or blue collar interview. It's just a chat. We just want to get to know you, ask questions and all that. Once again, thank you. So guys, I'm going to give a brief introduction for Chinedu. Chinedu is a tech savvy, business minded professional. I agree. I totally agree with that. He's a computer scientist and information technologist by training, with seasoned experience in governance, risk and control management. He has dedicated almost 10 years, more than 10 years by now, of his professional life to a multinational beverage company with roles ranging from IT operations and governance, IT security, and now enterprise risk management. He has some expatriate consultancy assignments with the International Organization for Migration, which is an agency of the United Nations, where he spent time transferring knowledge and expertise to the development of his country of origin, Nigeria. As a diaspora consultant, the Connecting Diasporas for Development CD4D program, working with agencies of the federal government of Nigeria, including the Nigeria Communications Satellite, NIGCOMSAT, in Abuja, and the National Horticultural Research Institute, NIHORT, in Ibadan. He also has had a brief stint in the academia as an assistant lecturer in the Department of Computer Science in the Niger State College of Education, Mina. Currently, he sits on the board of Nigerians in Diaspora Organization Europe, Netherlands chapter, as the vice chairperson. His deep interest is in working on simple solutions which has sustainable and greater impact on humanity and environment. He is married with 2 adorable children to his beautiful sweetheart, and he lives in Netherlands. Yeah, I was going to say he lives in Nigeria, Netherlands, because you could just call Chinedu. I tell you, I'm currently in Nigeria, but let's stick to Netherlands. Thank you again, Chinedu, for coming. How do you feel? Tell us. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, IJ. Thank you very much. Sometimes when you hear some of these introductions of yourself, you start to begin to wonder, are they really talking about me? but really, I'm more than excited to be here, and more than excited to be your first guest on the Black Expat Podcast. When you reached out to me, and then, I'm more than happy to always, do anything you want me to do. I think most importantly is to also, when you said it's going to be a free session, I think it even makes a lot more sense. So let's just freestyle whatever it is that you want us to talk about. I'm more than happy to have that conversation.
Thank you. So let's start with the biggest one. What motivated your move abroad? I mean, we can start from different places and we'll backtrack. But what motivated your move abroad?
I was not motivated to move abroad. I think I've been very open to sharing this story a couple of times. I moved about 6 years ago, more than 6 years already. I wasn't looking. So if you had told me 3 months before I moved that you were moving abroad, I would tell you blatant you were talking a big lie, because I didn't want to move. Look, let me put it well. And not that I didn't want to move. I was not looking to move. What just happened was very easily explainable. I was working for a multinational back home, more than happy with my job, but then I had this discussion with a senior colleague. We just bumped into ourselves a couple of times. I'm always very open to have those, corridor talks. And then the guy made me understand that, hey, I was more than okay back home. I was, in quotes, on a manager level in a multinational company. I was okay. I had good experiences, piling up. I had real hands-on, jobs I was doing. When I mean jobs, I mean projects. And then he said, boy, you can do a lot more, right? This role that you're just doing, you can do a whole lot more. And this is beyond this work you're doing in this place. You can think of any other thing else. And discussion led to another. I then began to see that maybe I'm underutilizing my capacity here. Even if the place was more than okay, the job was more than okay, the experiences more than okay, possibility for growth more than okay. And then I started looking for another job, not looking to go out of the country. This was 2018. Jackpot was not yet a thing. I was looking for any other job in a different department. I was already about 3-4 years in IT. My perception about IT still holds. I see IT not as an end, but as a means to an end. So I see IT as powering business, not business in itself, right? So there's a business of IT to power other businesses and help, business achieve whatever it is that they want to. So I wanted to do something else, not IT anymore. And I was just looking for another job. Could be commerce, sales, marketing, anything else, but not IT. And something popped up. Because it's a multinational, I was looking up for roles in another department, but then roles in another department in another country came up. One in Switzerland, more like what I was still doing, still IT, but a bit different. And then the second one was in the Netherlands, which happens to be the headquarters of the company. And then it was a totally different department that would give me a holistic understanding and appreciation of the business. And I say, I grabbed it with open hands, and that was how I actually moved in 2018. So it was not that I was looking to go out of the country, but an opportunity came that helped me, elevated my career, promotion, new job, new opportunities, new country, a head office of a big company. Why not? So I just grabbed it with open hands, and that's how I left Nigeria in 2018.
So what made you choose Netherlands? The fact that it was the headquarters, or? The room
I
for more growth or both?
yeah, so I didn't really choose the Netherlands. I would say the Netherlands chose me, right? So that was the opportunity that came. I did all of the interviews. They brought me here for just 3 nights, I think 2 nights and 3 days, specifically for interviews after having multiple Skype for business calls at that time. Then it was not Microsoft Teams for Skype. So we had those calls and I said, okay, yeah, you have to come over. And then they flew me down for just the recruitment day. And then on the same day, they said, okay, yeah, you have to join us. And that's how. So I would say technically the Netherlands chose me. I didn't choose the Netherlands.
Okay, so let's backtrack a little bit. What was your
Tell me.
childhood like? What were the significant parts of your childhood? And how do you think it has shaped you to be the person you are today?
I would say my parents had a lot of influence in growing up, and now it has shaped my thinking. First and foremost, I think I'm pretty much a traditional person. So traditional in all sense of the word traditional. If you want to think of it differently, your own, thinking of the word traditional. When I say traditional, so those values you can think of, how it shaped our different cultures and communities back home, right? So I think I'm pretty much a traditional person. I see the things or the decisions I make, and I can quickly tell where this thought is coming from, right? So I think that my parents, how they decided, how they chose to live their lives, had a lot of impact positively on how I live my life now, and that has shaped, or that childhood experience has shaped also how I think and feel now. So if you say how was my childhood, I think it was a very loving childhood. Growing up under both parents is underrated, I would say. I had the privilege of growing up under the tutelage of both my father and my mother. My dad was an early traveler. He traveled the world, he was a businessman going everywhere from India to the Netherlands to Hong Kong. But he always came back home. And one day he told us a story of when he was abroad with some of his friends, and then their flight back to Nigeria was the next day, and they were having a drink somewhere, and then they were asking, say, why don't us just stay back? There's nothing happening back home. This was far back in the 80s, when my dad was traveling around. And then he said, he told them that then we're just still small boys. So I'll say maybe far back in the 90s, we're still young boys. And then he said that the thought of seeing his 3 young boys grow is enough for him rather than just staying back in it. And that's why I say I'm a bit of a traditional guy. That has also shaped me, right? So being present, having the presence of a father figure, the presence of a mother figure. When one is hot, the other is cold. When the other is hot, the other is cold. And how they swap roles very quickly just to make us a whole person. That has been my childhood experience. And I also see it playing out in how I, perceive or how I approach life now. So it depends on what part of my childhood you want to talk about. There are multiple different parts of my childhood. And at different points in times, I can already see how different phases have shaped the kind of person I've become now.
Okay, let's narrow it down. When you think of your childhood, what was the first most significant thing that immediately comes to mind, and how did it shape you?
The first most significant thing I would say was having a complete home, right? And now, I mean, I'm grown now. I read about things both on social media and also on books, and how it was not a competitive home, but a loving home. So we didn't have siblings competing against themselves or parents pitching one against the other, but having this really loving home with siblings looking out for themselves and trying to bring out the best in the other person. So when I think about that in my childhood, I think that's a pretty most impactful one.
And sadly, that is something that is quite missing in this time and age.
Totally agree.
I was having a conversation with somebody, and I said, I think I now understand what is the challenge with this generation. So, our generation, you and I, we grew up in a time when our mothers and our fathers were working. But let's maybe focus on the mothers. Our mothers were working. but a lot of our grandmothers were not actively in service. So when they had us, our mothers had us, they could go to work, but we had grandmothers who usually would stay and teach and all that. But in this generation, our children's grandmothers are mothers, a lot of whom are still working or have retired, but their brain has refused to retire. So there is no gap being covered. And because we ourselves were busy and there's really nobody to give the kids to, the kids now go resort to devices. The challenge of that is that growing up, you had your mother to teach you because she had a traditional 9 to 5 job and she'll come back home. And you had your grandmother to teach you. You had books to read. There were things that you had to do that could teach you values. But right now, those things are not there. Your learning is online, and online is filled with all sorts. So you see the typical generation these days, and sometimes you're like, are you not thinking? Now I'm like, that's exactly, I feel like that's exactly what happened. So I think that that has really, if as a parent, if you decide to bring in some of those traditional things back into your home, you stand a better chance of raising kids who are more wholesome. I'm not saying devices are bad or anything, but to have time for conversations, have time to let the children know I'm there for you. You can imagine this statement, probably where your father made it. He just said it from his heart, but he has stayed with you all these years, and has shaped who you are. But these days, father is on phone, mother is on phone, kids on phone. There's no time for communication, and So I'm going to ask, what were the initial challenges you experienced when you first relocated, and how did you overcome them?
Overcome them, or you
a
just
question, or you just learn to thrive with them?
Sometimes they are just it just becomes part of you. I think you find better ways of managing them, so it's not about overcoming, but you just find this is difficult, not difficult, but it's a lot. First of all, I think I had underestimated the cost of relocation. When I say the cost, I'm not talking about the monetary cost. That's far from it. I'm talking about the psychological cost of relocation. It didn't occur to me how much of a change I was going to experience until I had made the move and then finally started living the life. For instance, I talked about being just tired of what I did. I thought I could do more, so I had gotten a new job. That was not a job that was my comfort zone. So I had moved from IT to audit, even if I still then do much more of technology audit, but this was pure audit. I was still expected to do business process audit, project audit, and different kind of stuff. Now, I had never done audit my entire life. So that was part of the relocation, should I say, baggage. Moving from IT, my very comfort zone. I have a bachelor's in computer science, master's in information technology itself. So I sleep and drink IT. It's never too complex. Move to audit. I did not also realize that I was moving from an English-speaking country to a Dutch-speaking country. Even if in the office, you can argue, okay, the official language of instruction is English. But indeed, you live in the society, right? It's a Dutch society. The official language of the Dutch society is Dutch. So you run not the risk, but you run the reality of going to a train station or a shop, and then everything can sometimes be in Dutch. But because, again, there can be sometimes some English translations, but your brain is shut down, seeing only Dutch, that you don't even see the English in small letters. It can happen. So many of these things, right? And then it tests you, but I would also say it also builds you. Now, if you ask me, will you do it? I think I will do it over again and again and again and again, because you then realize that for instance, I realized that everything in my life changed. My job changed, my language of association changed, location has changed. So technically, everything was changing. And I underestimated the impact of that change. So when you say, how did you overcome it? I don't know if I've overcome it. I think I just found better ways of living with it. So, for instance, the job that changed, multiple months and years in the role, you just realize your learning curve is so steep, so you have to pick up new concepts, learn on the job, which the job offers that opportunity, right? And then you learn and learn on the job, and then you become far, far better than when you started. So that way, have you overcome that? I don't think so, because there's always room for improvement. You get better, you learn new concepts, you learn how to engage with much more difficult stakeholders, complex projects. So you still keep on learning, Environment wise, do I still speak Dutch? I think the keyword we say klein beetje, right? Very small Dutch. But what is important now is that after multiple years of interacting with the language, what then happens is very simple. You then begin to see letters in Dutch, and then you don't need a translator anymore, because you translated that letter maybe 2 or 3 times in the past, and then you begin to pick a few lines of Dutch, whether hearing or speaking or reading or writing. You just learn. There were lots of dumb things, that happened. I can also share, because it's in the past. Dumb things, for instance, like you check on Google Maps where the next train or tram, what bus number you want to go into, and then they say, okay, it's tram 19. You hop into tram 19, but you're going into tram 19 on the opposite direction, because tram 19 goes either ways, right? So dumb things. And then you check your Google Maps. Whoa, I'm going back and not going forward. Okay, yeah, so tram 19 goes either way. So all of the bus on a bus stop or tram or goes either ways. Those dumb things, I think you just do it once and then you don't do it again. The other very dumb thing, this language thing really tests your level of not patience, but your level of education, right? So you go into a shop, there is in and there is out, and it's ingang, outgang, but then you don't understand the word in Dutch. You are trying to force yourself through outgang, and the door is not opening up, but you see people in the shop.
Oh my
then
God.
You are, trying to wave, say, come on, I want to go in, and everybody's looking at you like a dumb guy, because the instruction there is saying exits and not entrance. Those kind of very dumb things. But I think you just be a fool like once or twice, after which you are forced to learn. So like you said, how did you deal with them? Have you dealt with them? I think you just keep on dealing with them as time progresses, because you get better with these things.
I think almost everybody has experienced that bus own. I also experienced. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. This is hilarious. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, it's okay.
All right, let's go on to. So, what is your current role like? And while you're talking about that, I want you to mention briefly about. So, your father was a businessman, but I think you have some political stakes. Am I correct?
You may not. So I think it was Socrates that says every man is a political being, right? No matter how much you try to run away from it, I think there's an element of politics in all of us. I use the word politics very lightly. Politics, if you think of it in a very light word, but I don't think mine is politics. It's just finding ways to make the world a better place. If that makes you political, then so be it. But I just don't think that it's enough for you to be okay and make your nuclear family and maybe your extended family okay. If you can make an impact as small as possible, that would affect, it could be a small community or a bigger town or a whole country or a whole continent or the whole world. Why not? Why just keep your being okay to just yourself? So if you look at me from that perspective and you say I'm political, then I'm happy to be political.
Okay, that's nice, because they say, what did they say? That evil thrives when evil people are in power and good people keep quiet. So it's always good to see people, when you see people who actually have character, be able to get it. I, for one, I try to avoid anything that has to do with getting into government circles, because I feel like I had enough of that growing up. My mom was in government and in politics, so anything that has to do with government, I'm like, bye. But when I see people who have the character and you're genuinely interested, I'm like, go. Me, I don't want to go, but go, because really, evil thrives when good people remain quiet. So I really will commend you on that. Like, you're the vice chairperson of NIDO, and I can imagine the impact that you're bringing there. I see quite some things that have happened, and I know that, yeah, and like they always say, okay, but someone made a comment that the central and leaders of tomorrow is no longer true. But I've seen things that are different there, and I can attest to the fact that new minds got into there, which is good. And of course, in the future, more things are going to happen when more people join and all that. So kudos on that. But let's talk about your current role at work and contributions in your field. What can you share about that? And then we'll go on to talk about your family.
I'm more than happy. Yeah, I think I have every reason to be happy. I would say I'm blessed, more than blessed, both at work and also at home. So yeah, been here already 5 years. I think 6 already. This is already August. So I started work 1st of August 2018. So I was 6 years, a few months or a few days ago. Thank you. 10, almost 11 years totally in the company. So, yeah, more than blessed. In those 6 years, interestingly, I think we don't count our blessings enough. I had come here on a promotion, and I've been promoted twice after that. So that's quite impactful. Maybe that shows that possibly there's something I'm doing right. And that's something to be grateful for. So that's why I say I'm very blessed. Yeah, I think I've had managers and also leaders in the office that so much believes in my capacity as a person, which I don't take for granted. My current role now involves a little bit of, should I use the word now, coaching and development of the younger ones. So my role now involves a bit more complex assignment. So I'm expected now to lead a lot more complex assignment, complex projects, but also helping the younger ones to reach their expected capability. So it's an interesting one, and I'm so far liking it.
Let's talk about family. Did you relocate as a single person or as a married person?
Yes.
Because we know you married one very wonderful and hard, huh? How did you do it? Please teach us the magic, because I heard that some of us need to marry.
So I moved when I was single, so it made the moving easy. Now I am married. I know moving anywhere else would be a bit more complicated because it has to be signed off by somebody else who we are captaining a ship together. So I think so far, family life, it depends on what you want to hear. I want to consider myself a very happily married man. And sometimes it impacts on your job. So not sometimes. I remember when I was getting married, I had a boss. He's no longer my boss. He moved now to take up a senior role in the company. He told me, he said, Edu. I said, yeah. He said, a happy wife, a happy life. And that stuck.
Wow, some serious wisdom.
I think yes, that stuck. So sometimes you can see people having crazy day or crazy time, crazy challenges in the office. I'm not saying all of the time. Sometimes you can route it back to how the home front is. Maybe things are not as great as you should be back home. So I'm very happy, both at home and at work.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about the journey?
What
how
exactly
you went to
do you want to know about? Tell me.
Pluck the damn cell.
I can maybe I can shed a bit of light. So
just a bit.
No,
Guys,
sure.
Chinedu's wife is a first class graduate, by the way. Amazing, pretty woman. And why I'm very particular about this. See why I'm particular about this story. There is an association of singles in Netherlands that after the agenda to succeed at work, the next agenda is marriage. And I hear all sorts of stories, some pathetic, some painful, and the others absolutely hilarious. Like, stories and reasons. And it's almost like once you go relocate here as a single, you're your own. Date from Nigeria is a problem because the person either is coming to chop your money or to come and marry you and divorce you and get paper. Date from here, I cannot trust the people here. if I marry woman from here now, tomorrow. So tell us your story. What happened? At least for the people that want to
No,
go
no, but
to Nigeria.
the mindset has to be very clearly managed, right? So you just pointed out a few things that people may have, and that's not a good mindset to have when you're looking for a spouse. So if you start to have a mindset, oh, she wants to come and eat my money, or so the mindset is already whack, and that's a problem, So I really, maybe because again my name is Chinedu, God leads me. I really honestly believes in the direction that God is taking me. So when you say, how did you know she is the one? I also believe that there is somebody for everybody, and it's your responsibility to find that person and make that person who the person should be. So if you have a crazy mindset of going into a relationship or going into marriage, then that mindset can begin to haunt you, right? So, but yeah, if you just have the right mindset and also pray, then everything should work out fine. My wife, how did I meet her? Okay, how did it happen? I would also be thankful. I mean, I every time I say this, I'm a bit careful, because I know that people lost livelihood, jobs, family members, close ones during COVID, because of COVID. But I also thank God for COVID, because COVID came and slowed me down, because it slowed the business world down. Prior to COVID, my job required that I traveled approximately 8 times every year. And every time I traveled, totally different countries, sometimes different continents. I spent minimum 2 weeks. And then I was practically living from briefcase to briefcase. And then COVID came. COVID actually caught me in DR Congo. I was in a small place, in the place called Bukavu. It's the east of DR Congo, very close to Rwanda. And then the airports were shutting down. We had to go back, and then it was now work from home. It was a new thing. It was not a popular working from home kind of setup, but everybody was just trying to adapt to the new normal, like they called it. And one thing led to the other. I met her on a social app, specifically on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is, I'm not trying to market LinkedIn, but I know it's a very professional app. I'm not too active on every other social media. Maybe I'm a bit more active on LinkedIn. So, and then we would just started chatting, and then one thing led to the other. I became a bit more serious, but it was also COVID. My brains had now capacity to accommodate other stuff that was not work. I think prior to COVID, it was just work. Now it was work from home. You work a little bit, and then you want to think of something else. And that was how I had a bit more time. And when it became a bit more serious, we just, having conversations, chat, talk. I also had a very fantastic boss. I've always been blessed with fantastic bosses, by the way. And then I called up my boss. I said, how? He said, how are you doing? He said, fine. I said, it's work from home, right? He said, yeah, it's still work from home. You cannot come to the office. The office is closed. I said, home is anywhere you've got internet connection, right? He said, yes. I said, I'm going back to Nigeria to work from Nigeria. And then he said, okay. I practically spent COVID back in Nigeria. So I had to go back home. And long story short, of course, we met for the first time, and very quickly things progressed. And in less than no time, we were husband and wife.
Wow, I really love that you started from the mindset aspect, because I think that's where it all starts from. You will get what you say, and you will get what you think about. Because I always see people who do that, and I just want anyone who is listening to this, who might be single and you feel stuck, it's actually possible. Just sit down and ask yourself, what is my limiting belief about this, and find a way to just tackle it. Really, at the end of the day, it's your mindset. Thank you for sharing that. We're going to get into the final part of it, how your work is impacting the community and inspiring others, and also advice you will give to Nigerians out there. I noted some questions I've also asked. I was curious really about the how the instinct for the being out there in a governance came about, but you've already shared about that. So we're going to have a series of quick, light-hearted questions just to get to know you behind the scenes. All right.
Okay.
What's your favorite Nigerian dish?
I'm not a foodie. I'm not saying that people who have favorite dishes are foodie, but I honestly don't have a favorite dish.
Not even
I can eat it. No. I only have. I know I have very low. How do I call this now? Threshold to try new things, but I'm trying to break that now because I travel a lot. So I try not to judge a book by its cover. So I try to just take. But I still have my limits anyway. I don't do raw stuff. So don't give me medium rare.
Carpaccio,
Yeah.
right? I don't have the mind for that yet.
So, but I honestly do not have a favorite dish, whether Nigerian or foreign.
Okay, all right. If you could travel to any place that you currently can't travel to as at now, where would it be?
I would like to experience Africa more.
Really?
So, yes. I mean, I'm African, but I think I'm traveled more outside of Africa than in Africa. And I feel a little bit ashamed of myself when maybe I'm in a flight or I'm in a different location and somebody tells me about East Africa. I've never been to East Africa. I've never been to southern part of Africa. I've only been to North Africa. And then I'm from West Africa, of course, a couple of countries around West Africa, from Togo, Ghana, Nigeria, DR Congo, Rwanda, but never been to East Africa. So Kenya, Zimbabwe, that is a little bit down. I've never been to those lovely places. I would like to experience Africa more.
I think one of my dream countries to visit is actually Kenya in Africa.
Yeah,
I heard it's
they're
really
having a
big.
bit of political issues now, but it's a beautiful.
Have you been to Zanzibar?
No, never been there. That's Tanzania, I think. Is it Tanzania?
Where you been? I think like you are
very
also agree with the
popular
countries.
beach. Yeah, so I mean, I would love to experience Africa more. I think there's a lot of things to be done in Africa, but also really being with the locals and experiencing life from their perspectives. That already shapes you, and then you can then begin to think Pan-African and also begin to think, okay, what can I do, that can make an impact, not just in my small community, but Africa as a whole. So I really would like to experience Africa more. Yeah.
All right, nice. If you could have dinner with an inspirational figure, who would it be?
Crazy guy, Elon Musk. No jokes.
Why?
So I need to know how his brain works.
Why Elon Musk? Why not Jeff Bezos?
No, Jeff is a bit predictable. Elon is very unpredictable, and sometimes, I think I've not learned this yet. I don't think it's always the good kids in the block that makes the most impactful things. It's always people who are a bit weird and not always going in line, right? So when you see people who really make an impact, they are not always following the rules. I'm not saying that not following the rules is good, but I really need to understand how that guy's brain is wired. I don't know if just one dinner session will help me understand it, but I would not mind having dinner with the guy.
All right, guys. So we want to take a brief commercial break to tell you about our sponsor for this particular episode. Our sponsor for this episode is MyNigerian.nl, which is a platform that is dedicated to fostering the faster integration of Nigerians in Netherlands. And we do this through capacity building, resource collaboration, lifestyle events, and community building. It's been a premium source of information and guide to Nigerians who want to relocate to the Netherlands and Nigerians who are already in the Netherlands. We hold monthly meetups and quarterly physical events which have been successful back to back. So if you're looking for a community of like-minded Nigerians where you can connect with people, think and talk, you want to be in the Nigerian.nl community. You can find out more about Nigerian.nl community on www.mynigerian.nl. And if you want to become a member, you can become a member on www.mynigerian.nl/membership. We look forward to having you. All right, back to our session. We're going to just have we have two things left. Basically, we'll talk about your work. What work are you doing now? How is it impacting the community and inspiring others? And what will be your advice to other Nigerians in diaspora or those aspiring to move forward? But let's take it one step at a time. What work are you currently doing now? How does it impact the community?
You mean my work as a professional? What put food?
And you
food on my table?
You can discuss it in both as a professional and on the side. Whatever work you find meaningful.
I mean, my 9 to 5 is very 9 to 5-ish. The most important thing is that it adds meaning to my life. So when I took up the responsibility, the reason I said yes to the offer was because I really wanted something that would give me a 360-degree understanding of the business we're running. And I think I got more than I asked for. I was looking for a 360-degree understanding back in Nigeria. I then got a 360-degree understanding of the world, right? So I wasn't just given an opportunity. I was given an opportunity in an audit department, an internal audit department that does all kinds of reviews, audit engagements, consultancy assignments across all of the operating companies that we have in the world, and we get to travel to not all of them, but most of them. So I'm always traveling. So that for me, I cannot have asked for anything better. I don't know how it's impacting the world. I think you just make a bit of impact in the lives of the people that you visit, because most of the times we do what we call cross-fertilization of ideas, and also bringing out good practices from a different country to a new country, and also good practice from a different process to a new process. And then you see the smiles on people's faces anyway when you share those good practices, because of the huge experiences that you've been able to accumulate everywhere. But personally on the side, I think I'm also a little bit into a couple of things. And for me, it's about things that will add meaning to life, right? So, yeah, meaning as much as possible. And that also informs the kind of association I belong to. In your introduction, you talked about the fact that I sit on the board of Nigerians in Diaspora Organization Europe Netherlands chapter. Of course, I am the vice chairperson there. And the whole essence of that association is towards homeland development, right? So everything we think, breathe, and feel in that association is just a collection of Nigerian professionals in multiple different countries scattered across the world. There is Netherlands, Germany, Switzerland, Americas, everywhere. And there are also the European chapter or the continental chapter, and then the worldwide theme. Everything that we think, breathe, and do is how we can connect professionals to development back in Nigeria. Just a few days ago, or a few weeks ago, I was privileged to be in Abuja, specifically, coincidentally, in the State House in Abuja for the Diaspora Day. I think it was a lovely event. So that's on one side. And then I also try to find, opportunities to just add a bit of, should I say, value back to life. So I think IJ, you were there. We may most likely have, I'm planning for that to now be quarterly. So just look for an opportunity, right? I was discussing with a friend.
The bowling stuff, right?
Exactly.
That was phenomenal.
Yes, exactly. So it was a very simple thing, right? Discussing with a friend who was about to get married, and then coincidentally, he got married just a few weeks ago. I was also fortunate to be in Nigeria to attend the wedding physically. Beautiful ceremony, by the way. But I was in the house of these lovely people, and then we're planning an outing. Let's have the fun outing. And then bowling came to mind. That's a fun thing that you can do. But I was also in a different friend's house, and then we're planning, let's do something fun, maybe an outing. And then bowling came to my mind. But this friend does not know that friend. And I said, oh, come. What if I create an opportunity for friends to meet friends, and then we can all go bowling? And the whole bowling thing with friends came. Then I said, okay, no, one more step. What if I ask these friends to maybe pay just a token, just, to come have fun, and then we can look for an impactful project that this can actually do back home. Whoever wins the event will decide what impactful
I think
project
that was the most beautiful part of it.
I was impressed. I think I'm saying it out loud now. I'm very grateful for the quality of relationships I have, because it was just small stuff on my WhatsApp status. I don't do WhatsApp status anymore, but because of that I had to do it. And just a few messages, personal messages to friends, no external person I did not know. And impressively, more than 20 persons showed up and paid for the event. And we had fun. We had a bowling alley, we had drinks, we had small chops. But what was interesting was after that, we had a winner. It took a lot of time for the winner to come up with a project because he did not have anyone in mind. And I was so excited that just a few weeks ago, we were able to donate 800 euros to a cancer foundation back in Nigeria.
Wow.
So the money that we raised from that bowling event was, after lessing out all of the expenses, was 800 euros. And then 800 euros in cash went to a cancer foundation back in Nigeria that does all sorts of mammograms and all sorts of chemotherapies and all sorts of things. I already have the appreciation letter from the Cancer Foundation that I want to share now with all participants of the event. But it just shows you how, when you have like-minded people who think in the same frequency and wavelength that you think, can just come together and things can just happen. So I'm looking forward to the next one, and see how we can expand and extend that scope, and see how we can do even much more impactful things. So these are some of the things that keeps me busy, on top of, or besides other smaller things I want to start to put my hands in right now. So quite a busy life, I would say I have, but I'm happy.
Very impactful work. I mean, I came for that bowling and I was happy. It was amazing. It was amazing. Yeah. I think that life doesn't come from what we spend; it comes from what we give. The beauty of life is in what we give.
Yeah.
So thank you again.
What was interesting for the bowling one, and that's why I am so appreciative to God for the quality of relationships I have. I had a couple of friends who called me and said, Edu, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be available for this event, but I'm going to pay because I like the course that you're going for. So we had people who made payments, but we are not available to come bowl. So they did not have drinks, they did not have any small chops, there was no fun for them. But then they said, I want to make an impact with you, so I want to pay for it. I think that was very, very more than excellent.
Wow, super well done. Thank you for, I say this carefully, but thank you for not allowing the comfort make you forget that life can be bigger than this.
I mean, I told myself, I've been here already for 6 years. When I moved in here, I said, it's very easy to lose track or to lose touch of the things happening back home. And I gave myself a target to always visit home at least once every year. And I dare to say that the changes that happened back in Nigeria, in 1 year that you go back, you cannot keep up with the change. So no matter how much you don't want to lose touch of the things happening back, you still lose touch of a whole lot. But then just going back, I was back this time, I spent 6 whole weeks back. And, really go into people, have conversations. I was flying everywhere, from Benin to Owerri to Abuja to Lagos to Yewa in Ogun State. I was almost everywhere. They say, be careful, insecurity. I know a little bit of insecurity, but God saves those or God protects those who He protects anyway. But then you begin to appreciate life differently. and then it begins to tune your brains in different ways that you cannot even imagine, to say, okay, when you return back to, in quotes, your comfort, what difference can you make? I know we cannot solve the world's problem. We are not good. We are not the government, right? But there is there are a lot of things that we can do. We enjoy, for instance, health insurance here. There is virtually nothing that would happen to you here that the insurance company will not take care of health-wise. But then there is a lot of people waiting to get chemotherapy back home that cannot even afford it, and they just lose their lives just like that. And just 20 friends coming together, having fun on bowling, and then we're able to donate as much as 800 euros at this exchange rate. I don't know how many chemotherapies can come out of it, or how many surgeries can come out of it. But even if it's just one life that we can save, I think that's enough impact. So just really finding ways. Must not be traveling back, but finding ways to keep up with the things happening back sometimes help us shape how we perceive life, and not get lost in this, in quotes, comfort that we find ourselves. It's not our fault anyway, but
it helps. So what advice would you give to the listeners, Nigerians in diaspora or those aspiring to move abroad?
I think different strokes for different folks. So the advice cannot be one size fits all. If I would think of people thinking of moving, I would say very importantly, have a goal in mind. What exactly do you want to achieve with your move? It's not true that you move abroad and things change. I would say something without mincing words. When you move to a different country in the West, or you move abroad, it only amplifies the quality of the life that you have back home. And I will explain what I mean. Yes, simple. So it doesn't really change it, it just amplifies it. If you are a sloppy person and you are maybe always having problems with different managers in your workplace, it just amplifies the problems that you have. If you are a pretty much smart person and go-getter, positive mindset, it also amplifies whatever it is that you have. If you have a good education, and so whatever it is that you do back, so have a plan. So sometimes moving is not the solution. Maybe you still need to find some time to find yourself, right? So find some time to discover yourself, and then think of, do I really want to move? Is moving the solution to my problem? For some people, yes. For some people, no. But the point is that when you do move, if you move, never ever forget where you're coming from. Because yes, it's easy to quickly forget things happening and say, okay, yes, I'm now in quotes in a better place. Everybody can go to hell. No, do not forget where you're coming from. I'm proud to say that I was trained. I think I was on a panel once by this UN agency. They were having a closing ceremony, the IOM guys, and then they asked me to come to the panel. And I told them, I'm happy to be here, privileged, everything, But I said I had all of my degrees back home in Nigeria, my primary education, secondary education, university education, masters and bachelors. So that shows that I think there was a point in time, and all from public schools, so no private education. That shows that there was a time that the educational system, if it still does work, there was a time it did work, right?
Yeah.
And it's the system that has shaped me. And you can argue that I went to school funded by the government, because primary was not paid for, it was taxpayers' money. Secondary was a bit, so the federal government college, so technically taxpayers' money, because there was no tuition. What we just paid for was PTA levy and a bit of small stuff. Taxpayers' money. University education, all federal government universities. Only the master's degree I paid for, because that was personally funded. I was working anyway. But that shows you that to a very large extent, subsidized education, and then these things shaped the person that I become. So why should I then forget the country in quotes that made me? I don't know what my life would have been if I was back in Nigeria, but the point I always try to make people understand, if I find myself being a tailor, for instance, a fashion designer, I would make sure that I make the best use of that opportunity and carve a niche out of myself. It does not matter what exactly I find myself doing, I must do it well. So when you find yourself anywhere else, always remember back home. And for those who are already here, different things move people around differently. I think the most important thing is to always think of the bright side of life. I mean, in the office, they always call me, my most senior boss in the office, the executive director, calls me the sunshine. He thinks that I bring light every time. But why do I have to wear a crazy face or annoying face? The point I'm trying to make is that be positive, right? Wear a positive smile. It was Burna Boy who released an album. I don't know how much people who are in Nigeria will understand the title of that album, but I see it play out almost every time here. He called that album Twice as Tall. What it simply means is that because of, you can argue, your skin color, how your voice sounds, your intonation, and everything you can think about, you need to be twice as good to be considered half as good, right? So when Burna Boy sang "Is Twice as Tall," I clearly understood what he was trying to say. So always bring your best attitude, bring your best character, bring your best approach to whatever venture it is you find yourself while being here. And I think it shows at the end, right? So people begin to see, at least they should not find you wanting in anything. And sometimes you can also argue, we've seen instances where people have done crazy things all in the name of being Nigerians, and people then begin to have warped mentality about you even before experiencing you. So you then realize that sometimes you have a bit of a hurdle to even cross and begin to prove yourself. But the most important thing is that when people finally get to experience you, they should really indeed say, no, if it's only this one, I have met one that is different. And by the time they meet so many different ones, then it begins to reshape the mindset that they have. I don't blame mindsets. If everybody you've seen sometimes in a particular place, if all, for instance, balls you have seen are oranges, you may begin to have a mindset that all balls are oranges, right? It begins to take when you see apples, okay, no, maybe not all balls are actually orange, that kind of stuff. So most importantly, put your best foot forward. You don't know how you are impacting the experience of the person coming after you. And then somebody will begin to say, because I know one Nigerian that I had a very positive experience about, then there's every tendency that this other person will also have that kind of stuff. So if you're already here, make the best use out of it. Bring your best foot forward. Show the best character that you're made of. Nigerians are go-getters, very open, energetic people, but also very smart, I dare to say anywhere.
Yeah.
And let them see that best part of you being in Nigeria. Yeah.
Wow. That's really amazing. Okay, so what's next for Chinedu Automonye? What should we look out for? What's happening? Of course, we've talked about the bowling event that you're likely to do a replica of. Maybe not exact same spot, but something in that nature. But what's next for you? What's on the horizon? Of course, share only to the extent that you're comfortable enough to share.
There's a lot of things going on in my brains. Like I said, I spent about 6 weeks back in Nigeria. And it shaped how I started thinking the next phase of my life. So for me now, it's really about social impact, right? So what exactly can I do differently? I cannot take up the responsibility of government, I know for sure. But what difference can I make in whatever small space? And that is exactly what is engulfing my mind now. What exactly is next? So many things coming up. until they begin to materialize. Maybe I'll not be able to share because I don't know which
Yeah,
of them will
sure.
materialize. But definitely, I know for sure that it's really about what difference can this make back home. I started to see myself more that I think there's a lot to be done back home, just a whole lot. It can be a bit frustrating because it's difficult to know how you fit in this space. I've had 11 years of professional career, fortunately or unfortunately, all in private sector multinational. And then I've had opportunities of working with some government agencies. You then begin to see how totally different mindsets are. So the question is, where do you fit in? How do you fit in? That kind of stuff. So, but I always believe that when I read Maxwell's book on 360-degree leadership, that already changed my mindset of you don't need to be. Leadership is not a title or a position. It's actually how much of an influence that you can make, right? And then when he talked about leadership in that hierarchical stuff, it's not always somebody that sits at the top that makes the influence. You can make influence from wherever you are, it is that you find yourself. And that's what is shaping me now, right? So I'm not looking for a title, neither am I looking for a position, but I'm just looking out for what difference can I make? What decision can I take now? What program can I string up sustainably, right? That can just make a bit of an impact, no matter how small the impact is. And that's what exactly is shaping my next line of thought. What exactly that is, I know, but it's not fully formed. When it's fully formed and it begins to take shape, then of course, you just get to know.
We look forward to that. The thing about this thing is, I think that God is always looking. Not I think God is always actually looking out for people through whom He can create changes in the world. And as long as you're open, He'll put them in your mind. So I'm going to say thank you. We're almost rounding up, but Chinedu, I'm going to say thank you. There's a reason we chose you on this podcast. You're my friend, and also as well as a family friend to us. I've seen your life, I've seen the things that you do, and sometimes there was a time that I was somewhere and I saw somebody that looked exactly like someone I know, but just before I could say, is it this person, I said no, it's not the person, because the circumstance that person was in, I knew it would never be of that other person that I know. And I think I can say that of you. So thank you for creating a brand, whether it's consciously or unconsciously, that really speaks the value that you give. Because at this point in time, one of the things we also need in Nigeria is role models, people that you can look up to. And my pastor used to say something. He says, I'm the pastor of over 5,000 member church. Everybody can't come to me, but there's this person, that person. That's also the way that we can't all go to the Ibukuna Woshikas or the Ngozi Okonjo-Iwealas or the the other top people, but there are people who are closer that you can actually learn from, that can be the stop for you on your way to becoming higher there. If you, as much as it's good to aim for the stars, sometimes you get some encouragement when you see someone who is farther ahead of you and can draw encouragement from you. So who might not be at their Okonjo-Iweala level, but at their own level, they're doing absolutely phenomenal. So thank you for being that kind of person. I'm going to say two things, and then I'm going to go through the last part of fun activity, and then we'll call it a day. Thank you again. What are your 3 top book recommendations to somebody who wants to live a life of impact, especially as a Black expat?
My books are here. I can show
Let's
you.
have a pick.
Now, I can give you the story of these books. How did it start? I don't know if this camera is good. This is Stephen Covey.
We can see it. 7 Habits.
7 Habits.
I don't see any leader that has not read this book. It's almost
highly
like
effective people. I cannot say. I don't even know what to say. But you must just read this book. Yeah, they're actually habits. And it says powerful lessons in personal change. Now, when I read books, there are books I read with a closed mind. There are books I read with a very open mind. I first of all look at the author and look at the biography of the author. For this particular guy, Stephen Covey, I read the book with a very, very open mind. And the habits are habits that if you really want to be highly effective, then you must imbibe them. I cannot summarize this book. This is one of them. The second one, John Maxwell. I remember I was in university when I bought this book. I was in the University of Benin. He called it the 360-degree leader. I think I made a quote from this book already.
Yes.
Yeah, during one of our discussion, because it's a very straight quote from one of the beginning of the book already, you know. But this book just begins to help you understand that you are a leader as you are. You don't need to have the title of president or minister or chairman or manager or managing director. You're actually leading from where you are. And then this was one of the diagrams I was talking about. I think I found it somewhere close by. Yeah, the 360-degree leader. I don't know if it's showing it very well. It's not really showing.
It just faintly. Yeah. It's that.
So it just shows you from exactly where you are, how you can lead your boss, lead your subordinates if you have, your peers, your boss's peers and your peers' subordinates. But very importantly, I think this book is very important. It talks about developing your influence from anywhere in the organization. And now the third one, specifically for expats in this country. Some of the problems we have will be like saying our village people, they follow us, but it's not village people. It's actually our lack of understanding of cultural nuances. That's the beginning of the problems. We do everything that is expected of us in quotes. You deliver on expectation, even more than expectation. But just cultural nuance, how to understand cultural habits, how to communicate, how not to communicate, how to give feedback, how not to give feedback, how to receive feedback, understanding the difference between your culture. Because if you remember in our social studies book, they tell us culture is a way of life of a people. You have to understand that when you are in a different place, they say, now so we they do, now so Nigeria, now so we they do for, not be so we they do, because you are not the majority anymore, right? Nigerians can be a bit loud and then we can just, no, you need to understand what works where and how people perceive or how people are perceiving you as an individual. Erin Meyer is a professor at INSEAD, if I'm not mistaken. She wrote this book called The Culture Map. It talks about breaking through the invisible boundaries of global business. By just finding yourself in a totally different culture, it doesn't have to be that you work for a multinational or not. It's a must read. You need to understand the different nuances and how you need to position yourself. Culture Map helps you understand you as an individual. I mean, everybody, we can say we are all Nigerians, but Hausa behave differently than Yoruba. It's true. But then when you see a Nigerian, a typical Nigerian, we know how they do. And that culture strikes out. There can be outliers, that's true. But the culture of a people strikes out. And it then helps you begin to understand, okay, what can I do differently? For instance, I talked about the fact that I travel a whole lot. I then realized I was to go to the US. I'm Nigerian. I live in the Netherlands, traveling with an Egyptian and a Mexican, and then going to the US. It's a clash of cultures. It's a clash of cultures. How you then begin to see things around power distance, about communication. Nigerians, we speak with a lot of meaning. The meaning is hidden. What was it? The meaning is so different things. And somebody asks you how you did, I did. Day, but you did that kind of. So when people are direct with communication, others are indirect. So you need to understand culture. And this Erin Meyer's book talks about culture map. I think everybody who either works for a multinational or find themselves living in a totally different country should read this book. So those are my 3 best picks. There are other ones, but they are a bit business and not talking about life.
Okay, so on your behalf, this video is going to go live on September 7th, 2024, and we're going to do a competition. It's either going to be the first to give a comment or something about hashtags, but the team is going to determine and put it in the caption. So if you're listening, just check the caption for how it's going to go, and we're going to give the winner of the competition a gift on behalf of Chinedu, from Chinedu, which is going to be the book that he recommends. So Chinedu, what book should we give the winner out of the 3?
If I use the word if, I'm struggling to pick. So I would really want to see it from where the winner is coming from. If the winner is already in this country, I would say the culture map is a perfect read for the person.
Okay.
But if the person is somewhere else, yeah.
Okay, but if they are somewhere else,
then it could be any of the other 2, because that would be a lot more relevant for them.
Please choose one.
360-degree leader is another one. John Maxwell is a fantastic guy.
So guys, if you win and you're in Nigeria, you will get directly from Chinedu, delivered from Amazon, culture map. If you're in Netherlands, if you're outside of Netherlands, you're going to get 360-degree leader. And as soon as you get it, be sure to reach out to him on LinkedIn or do a post. Please don't do it on Instagram. He's not likely to find it. Do it on LinkedIn and appreciate him, because he's sending it to you directly. And when you read it, let it be a reminder to you that you can go from here to here, and all it takes is time. All right, talking about culture, I was going to ask you, what was your greatest cultural shock when you landed?
I didn't have a lot of shocks. You know why?
Why?
Because when I moved, I think I was overly prepared for the culture.
You remember? You can read for Africa. There's almost nothing you don't know about Netherlands.
So what happened was that when I got the job, they said it was going to take 3 months for the government to process the work visa, those kind of stuff. I used 3 months. I got a job in March. I moved at the end of July. I resumed 1st of August. 3 months I used that to study everything about the country. I knew exactly what I would do on day 1, week 1, month 1, year 1. So there was still some cultural shock. And I'll tell you one that was, I don't know if it's a shock, but because I did not read that anywhere. I read it, but I did not, there are some things that you have to experience. So one of the shocks was, when you go into a shop and then you just want to ask, because I've experienced multiple times my Nigerian card did not work. I didn't get yet a Dutch card. The MasterCard would not work. They use this as Maestro card. And there's a long line of people. But I don't want to waste my time in the shop just to ask, Oga, it was not broken, but please, will this card work here?
And then they were expected to join the queue.
Just join. You cannot just button. You need to join the queue, So that for me was a huge shock, that when I see people still do that, I say, oh, calm down. These guys will not, and they will not talk to you. For anything, you cannot just jump in. No, you must join the queue and ask the question you want to ask. So for me, that was a little bit of a shock, because I did not I read it, but it was not clear that even for something as small as just asking very light question. But cultural shocks.
I think they like their lives. So it happened to me yesterday. I went shopping and there was a queue. I just wanted to ask the lady a question. She just clearly acted like she did not hear me. But that's why I was like, you think you're in Nigeria?
And they get really angry about it. They get really angry, and if they have the opportunity of clearing your doubts, they'll clear it. Maybe
I think
if
they
you then
feel
finally join the
rushed
queue.
by it. I think they feel like
I think their brains are sometimes wired to process one thing at a time and don't come and complicate it. They also, but But again, we're talking about culture.
Yeah.
If that lady, for instance, is maybe 25 or 28, or I don't know, for 25 years of her life, she was used to talking to one person at a time, and then every other person will take that, and then somebody just comes in. Come on, it's annoying.
I love what you said about being prepared. And if you're listening to it, guys, I think relocating is like marriage sometimes. Sometimes we spend so much focus on the wedding that we forget that there's a marriage after. Don't focus on how you're going to sell your things and book your flight and land and take pictures. Study about the country that you're going to make your trust. See what Chinedu said. He knew what to do on day 1, week 1, month 1, year 1. That's intentionality. It makes your life easier. So finally, the last part. We're going to run. You're going to have to answer these questions under 3 seconds.
Okay.
And I would say time out. I'll just go ahead to ask the next one. By the time I ask the next one, the time has elapsed.
Okay.
All right. What's the nickname for Nigerian national football team?
Super Eagles.
What Nigerian city is known as the center of excellence?
Lagos.
What popular food item is Nigeria the world's largest producer? Which famous Nigerian novelist wrote Things Fall Apart?
Chino Achebe.
What is the name of the longest river in Nigeria?
Niger.
Which Nigerian musician is known as the African giant?
Burna Boy.
What is the name of the traditional garment worn by men in Nigeria? Which Nigerian city is home to the ancient Benin Kingdom?
Benin City.
What animal appears on the Nigerian coat of arms?
Eagle and horse.
Which Nigerian won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1986?
Wole Soyinka.
8 over 10. Your brain is on fire.
Which ones did I miss? Tell me.
You missed the world's largest producer. And which popular food item is Nigeria the world's largest producer of? Is yams.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Then the name of the traditional Nigerian garment worn by men in Nigeria is Amada.
Okay, but there's also Danshiki now. Danshiki, is it cap? I don't even know. It's okay. It's okay.
All right, let's get into Netherlands. What is the capital city of the Netherlands?
Amsterdam.
What flower is the Netherlands most famous for?
Tulips.
What percentage of the Netherlands is below sea level?
2%,
what is the Dutch national color?
Orange.
Which Dutch painter cut off part of his own ear? Not.
Painter.
What is the Dutch word for bicycle?
Feet.
What popular breakfast topping originated in the Netherlands?
Topping.
Which Dutch cheese city shares its name with a popular dance move?
Zanschans? Not sure.
What's the tallest traditional windmill in the world located in the Netherlands?
Windmill, Zanschans. I don't know.
What is the name of the Dutch royal family?
House of Willem. No, not Willem. I'll remember. House of Oranje. House of Oranje.
Yeah, you got it. I can assure you a lot of people will not go this far. Capital city of Netherlands, Amsterdam. Flower in Netherlands, tulips. Percentage of Netherlands below sea level, 26%. Dutch national color, orange. The painter that cut off his own ear, Vincent van Gogh. Dutch word for bicycle, feet. You got that. Popular breakfast topping from Netherlands is hagelslag. The chocolate.
Hagelslag. Oh yeah.
Yeah, the Dutch cheese city that shares its name with popular dance move is Gouda. The tallest traditional windmill in the world located in the Netherlands is the Noord in Schiedam.
Schiedam.
Yeah. The name of the royal Dutch family, the House of Orange. That's all. And with that, we come to the end of the very first edition of the Black Expat Podcast, which is a platform that is dedicated to celebrating the life and achievements of Black experts in diaspora. On this first edition, we've had you, Chinedu. You've been an inspiration. You've talked about your life, your growing up, how your parents and your upbringing shaped you and helped you become the man that you are today. We're emphasizing the fact that after all is said and done, family is very important in everything that we do. And we also talked about how you, even though you didn't plan to come to Netherlands found you and you made the best use of it. And when you were in Netherlands, you didn't allow the predominant mindset about marriage affect you doing what you need to do, or stop you from doing what you needed to do. We've talked about the impact that you've had so far and the impact that is yet to come, which is still in the working. And we've also gotten to know you more, asked questions about Nigeria and other things, and it's been amazing. When you meet a man of knowledge, there is really no I feel like there's no end to the depth of what you can know with someone, because the more you learn, the more you learn from them, the more you can draw. So I want to say thank you for taking out time to be on this podcast. I especially count it a privilege that you're the very first person. And it also goes back to prove the relationship that we have. When you talked about relationships that day, when you talk about relationships, it was very phenomenal. Guys, amongst other things you want to take out from this podcast, invest in valuable relationships. When you're outside the country, you need it. So on that note, we're going to say a very big thank you again to Chinedu for coming on this podcast. If you want to connect with Chinedu, you can connect with him on LinkedIn at Chinedu Automonye. And he's always doing great things. So if you need inspiration or something, just stay close in his circle. I'm not saying that because it's here. I'm saying that because in a world that seems to be growing darker and darker, you want to be around the people that can shine light. And I'm happy I'm not the only one saying it. I'm happy that his boss calls him sunshine. And I'm not here to hype anybody. But when I see people, I'm not here to hype him. But when I see people who are taking steps, they have the same challenges every other person has. They have just decided to move forward in spite of. And what you can learn from them is to draw strength from them and do the same things. On that note, thank you. And see you for the next episode of the Black Expat Podcast. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure that you click that red button below and turn on your notifications for the next episode that will come up. Throughout the month of September, we're going to be sharing stories of people who have left the shores of Africa and are making Nigeria proud, making Africa proud, and doing phenomenal things with their lives. So stay tuned and see you next week. Bye-bye.